Good day, everyone. Today we will be discussing Republic Act number 10630, which is an amendment to Republic Act number 9344, also known as the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2006. RA 10630 was enacted to strengthen the juvenile justice system in the Philippines, addressing gaps in implementation and adding clearer guidelines for handling children in conflict with the law or CICL. So let us go through each section to understand how this law ensures that our justice system is child sensitive, developmentally appropriate, and rights based. So let's go to section 1. Section 1 is the amendment title of RA 9344. So the amended title is an act strengthening the juvenile justice system in the Philippines, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 9344, otherwise known as the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2006, and appropriating funds therefore. So, Section 1 updates the title of the original law to reflect its expanded scope. The new title now highlights that it establishes a comprehensive juvenile justice and welfare system. Importantly, it mentions the creation of the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Council, or the JJWC, a central coordinating body under the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or the DSWD, tasked with leading implementation, policy development, and interagency coordination for juvenile justice issues. So this sets the tone for the law that juvenile justice is not just about handling crimes, but also about welfare, rehabilitation, and social reintegration. Now let's go to section 2, which is the definition of Bahay Pag-asa. So this is Bahay Pag-asa. This is a 24-hour child caring institution managed by LGUs or accredited NGOs. It provides short-term residential care for children in conflict with the law, 15 to 17 years old. It includes an intensive juvenile intervention and support center and is operated by a multidisciplinary team. So section 2 introduces and defines Bahay Pag-asa, which is a vital institution in the juvenile justice system. So it says here that a Bahay Pag-asa is a 24-hour child caring institution run by local government units or licensed non-governmental organizations. So it serves as temporary shelter for children in conflict with the law, specifically those above 15 but below 18, while awaiting the resolution of their cases or transfer to other agencies. So what sets Bahay Pag-asa apart is the presence of an intensive juvenile intervention and support center, or the IJISC. Here, a multidisciplinary team, including social workers, psychologists, doctors, counselors, and barangay child protection members. They work together to develop an individualized intervention plan. This ensures that the child receives not just shelter, but targeted support and rehabilitation based on their needs. So that's all about the section 2. Now let's go to section 3, which is the minimum age of criminal responsibility. So children 15 years old or under exempt from criminal liability but subject to intervention programs. And children 15 to below 18 years also exempt unless they acted with discernment, and civil liability remains enforceable. So this section clarifies who can be held criminally liable among children. Children 15 years old or younger at the time of the offense are exempt from criminal liability. However, they are not simply set free, they are referred to intervention programs to address the behavior and prevent reoffending. And children aged 15 above but below 18 are also exempt unless they acted with discernment. Now, what is discernment? Discernment means the child knew right from wrong and still chose to commit the crime. If so, they undergo appropriate legal proceedings. It is also emphasized that exemption from criminal liability does not mean exemption from civil liability. So, for example, if a child damaged property, their family might still be held responsible for restitution under civil law. So that is section 3. Now let's move on to section 4. So section 4 is the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Council, or the JJWC. So JJWC is attached to the DSWD and chaired by an undersecretary. It ensures coordination among agencies like DOJ, DepEd, DILG, POW, BJMP, CHR, and others. And establishes RJJWCs in each region to localize implementation. Now, Section 4 formally establishes the JJWC, again, which is attached to the DSWD and tasked with ensuring proper coordination and implementation of juvenile justice laws. Now, it lists the government departments and agencies involved in the JJWC, as what I have mentioned, the DOJ, DepEd, DILG, PNP, POW, CHR, and many others. So each represented by officers of director level rank or higher. The law also mandates the creation of regional juvenile justice and welfare committees in every region. These are the local counterparts of the JJWC and are led by the DSWD's regional directors. So their role is to ensure the local level implementation of juvenile programs and coordination among stakeholders. So this shows that juvenile justice is not just a national issue, it must be implemented and monitored at every level from national to barangay. Okay, so we're done with section 4. Now let's go to section 5. So section 5 is the duties and function of JJWC. Now, what are those functions? To oversee implementation, policy advice and research, coordinate programs, conduct inspections and training, submit annual reports to the President and Congress, and involve children in policy development. Also, under Section 5 is the duties and functions of RJJWC. Now, the functions are regional oversight and coordination, assist in developing local programs and monitor implementation, conduct research and training, and submit reports to JJWC and perform duties assigned by JJWC. Okay, so this section goes into detail about the roles of the JJWC and the RJJWC. So, among the key functions of JJWC are advising the president on juvenile justice matters, coordinating government and NGO intervention programs, reviewing policies, gathering data and conducting research on juvenile crimes trends, ensuring children's participation in policy making, conducting inspections in detention and rehabilitation facilities, training personnel involved in the juvenile justice system, and submitting annual reports to Congress and the President. Now, the RJJWC performs similar duties at the regional level. They oversee LGU compliance, coordinate intervention programs, and handle localized data collection and facility inspection. So, this multi level system ensures that the juvenile justice framework is uniformly implemented, monitored, and regularly improved. All right, we are done with section 5. Now let's go to section 6, which is the children below the age of criminal responsibility. So it says here that children 15 or below must be released to custody of guardian or relative, subject to community-based programs or Bahay Pag-asa if necessary, and local social welfare officers supervise and recommend interventions. So this section outlines how children below 15 years old who commit offenses are not liable but must undergo community-based intervention programs. If their parents or guardians are absent or unfit, the child may be entrusted to NGOs, barangay officials, or social workers and placed in a bahay pag-asa if necessary. Now, for children aged to 12 to 15 who commit serious crimes like murder or drug offenses, they are considered neglected children and must be placed in a special facility called the Intensive Juvenile Intervention and Support Center for mandatory rehabilitation under court supervision. Children who repeatedly commit offenses after an initial intervention may also be placed in Bahay Pag-asa and given a more intensive program. So adults who exploit children to commit crimes face the maximum penalty of the crime. So the law also recognizes joint parental responsibility, allowing courts to order parents to attend counseling and hold them civilly liable if found negligent. Finally, it ensures that victims of offenses committed by children are given proper assistance and psychological support by the government. So that's all for section 6. Okay, now let's go to section 7. Miss Plaza, your turn.
All right. Good day, everyone. So, since sections 1 to 6 are already discussed, I will now walk you through the key points of Republic Act 10630, specifically section 7 to 12. First is section 7, which is what police and social workers must do first. So, when a child is picked up for an offense, the police have to decide quickly where the case should go. While they ask the child questions, three people must be present. First is a lawyer, which is the child's own lawyer or one from the public attorney's office. Now, second is a parent or close relative. And third is a local social worker. So the social worker does an on-the-spot assessment using a checklist from the DSWD. This check decides two things. First is the age, Is the child 15 or younger or 15 to 17? Second is discernment. Did the child fully understand right from wrong at the time? Now, if the child is 15 or below or 15 to 17 without discernment, the case is steered toward community based intervention, not court. But if the child is 15 to 17 with discernment, the next step is to see if the case can be settled through diversion, which is an alternative program that avoids formal trial. So that's all for section 7. Now let's move on to section 8. So when the prosecutor steps in. So a prosecutor only opens a formal investigation when diversion is not allowed by law. Next is the child or family refuses diversion, or the prosecutor, after reading the social worker's report, thinks diversion will not work. So once the complaint is served, the prosecutor must tell the public attorney's office where the child is being held. If the prosecutor finds probable cause, he or she has 45 days to file the case in the family court and must state clearly that the child acted with discernment. So now let's move on to section 9, which is building Bahay Pag-asa shelters. So every province and highly urbanized city must build and run a Bahay Pag-asa, literally house of hope. So inside each shelter is a special unit called the Intensive Juvenile Intervention and Support Center, or IJISC, for children who need deeper multidisciplinary help. National agencies like DSWD, DOH, DepEd, DILG, and the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Council set the standards and keep an eye on how these centers are run. So that's all for section 8. Now let's move on to section 9, or section 10 rather. So, Section 10, who pays for care? So, local governments must budget money every year for programs that help children at risk or already in conflict with the law, um, building and maintaining their Bahay Pag-asa, and running the IJISC. So, in short, caring for these children is a mandatory local expense and not an afterthought. So that's all for section 10. Let's move on to section 11 for the status offenses and local ordinances. So for status offenses, things that are not crimes for adults, like running away, are never crimes for children either. So local ordinances on curfew, truancy, smoking, drinking, minor public order issues, and similar acts are meant to protect children and not punish them. So a child caught violating these rules must be taken home or to the barangay hall and released to parents. No fines, no jail. The child is logged as a child at risk, which is not a criminal. Now, ordinances must include support measures, counseling for the child, and parenting seminars for adults. So, yeah, that's all for section 11. Let's go to section 12, which is keeping accurate records. Everyone who handles a child's case, the barangay workers, police, teachers, social workers, uh, even the prosecutors, must record essential details such as age, address, gender, alleged offense, and the help or diversion given. The JJWC will run a centralized information system so the right rules are applied to every child. This requirement sits alongside existing privacy protections in Section 43 of the law. So, next are some key takeaways for sections 7 to 12. So, child protection and guidance must come first. Punishment is a last resort. Diversion and community intervention are embedded at every stage. LGUs are financially responsible for shelters and programs, and centralized records help apply the law consistently and fairly. So that's all for section 7 to 12. Thank you so much.